the construction of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is going on pretty well, and Ethiopians from all walks of life are contributing share to the success of this colossal dam. And the construction of this dam is going on 24/7, rain or shine, with Ethiopians being the sole sponsor of the dam, without any foreign element supporting the nation. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Addis Dialogue with the program. I'm Shifarao Lako, and to tell us more about this colossal dam, I'm joined by Dr. Alamayo Wilde Gabriel, and he will help us shed more light into the matter. So, to stay with us. Talking about the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, I think your engagement when it comes to the dam comes through this international professional support for Abai. Can you walk us through the genesis of IPSA? Let's first start with this.
Yeah, thank you. As you said, my involvement in the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam started with organization IPSA. I joined IPSA around 2012. IPSA stands for Ethiopian International Professional Support for Abai. It was established after the Egyptian President Morsi threat during Parliament. They, as you recall, there was some discussion. We do this, we do that, we do that to basically to decapacitate the construction of the dam.
Exactly.
So when the Ethiopians in the diaspora hear that one, they said, okay, we need to put together our effort and establish an organization to support the negotiation team technically and also fighting the political misinformation in the rest of the world. That's how it's established. Since then, we have done a number of really accomplishments. I can say that was the only organization established, pre-Prime Minister Abiy coming to power. A little bit, the GERD was politicized at the time, unfortunately, both in Europe, in America, because of the political situation in the country. When Prime Minister Meles Zenawi announced the establishment of the start of the construction of the dam, a number of sectors of our society in diaspora, they were not really perceptive to the idea, even though the project is really grand and it really benefits the entire the population of the country. So IPSA was the only one established at the time, so we keep going, putting together technical analysis about the dam and about the negotiation, and we have a website established, IPSA1A.com. If anybody who access that website can see our technical analysis and paper in that one. We have also a frequently asked question session for non-technical peoples to really learn about the dam and about the water policy of the UN convention. So we put together a lot of really helpful technical things in our website. So we are still active today. We celebrated our 7th year several years ago.
Okay, congratulations.
And, it was like 4 years ago we celebrated. We got together with Zoom, and there were people, experts from every continent except Latin America.
Wow.
There are a number of people from Canada, a number of people from the US, a number of people from the Europe, and a number of people from Middle East. We have our members are all over scattered the world, so we get support and activities. They participate activities in various regions now because of the mushrooming of a lot of GERD support groups. So I'm proud to say that I'm happy I joined this organization. Currently, I'm the executive director, former executive director of Dr. Balacho Chakana. He lives in London now. So we have a EC Central Committee, executive committee members from Middle East, Europe, and America. So that's how established, and that's how IPSA contributed as much as we can with this is not a full-time job. We have our own full-time job that earns our living. This is in addition to that one, but I can say we contributed a lot by interacting with the negotiation team, giving them some kind of sounding board on some of the issues.
Yeah, I'm glad that IPSA is gaining this much popularity. Can you also walk us through some of the achievements notched up by IPSA, especially, as you know, in the face of these fabricated propaganda and narratives incessantly, cooked up and propagated?
Yeah, there are a number of technical papers that were put together out, especially in reputable journals. Unfortunately, I mean, I don't know how those papers really got published. Most of them are really wrong in terms of technical depths. With the cooperation of other water resource experts, I mean, we are challenging and putting out our own information to remove those technical articles from the journals. Okay. A few there are put together in books. The books was published already out. It's very difficult to remove those, but a number of articles has been really pulled because of the effort of the water resource professionals in the diaspora. These are some of them are IPSA members, others are really associated with other girl support group and organizations.
If I ask you, what has IPSA done, especially for Abai, what would your answers be?
It mobilized the resources we have abroad. I mean, in our database, we have over 240 professionals in various fields. So we contact those professionals if they want to engage in a particular issue, and most of them, they respond. So the main purpose of IPSA was to mobilize and connect the water resource professional or people who are really want to engage in water resources field with experts here at home.
Yeah, okay. So it's creating, this larger connection across the globe, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So let me also come to you personally, and as a member of IPSA, as an Ethiopian, and also as a water expert, what does the GERD mean to you personally, and also as an Ethiopian? What's the meaning of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam to Ethiopians?
Since we were a child, we learned geography in elementary school, high school, and there are a lot of songs about Abai, and we haven't utilized. And when we hear that we have a project on Abai, the Dasi or GERD, and we are all excited. Now it's time to utilize our water resources. Ethiopia is rich in water resources, and most of the water resource has not been really utilized. So it was really a very good moment for us. So I'm a water resource professional. I have done a number of technical analysis for water planning studies, flood control, drainage. So this was just very dear to my heart, and I started participating immediately in putting together technical analysis and articles on our website or also on where that can be read.
Exactly. Ethiopians, as you know, are the sole sponsor of this colossal dam, which they take this great pride in. So, and as such, they call it their existential project. So what does the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam mean vis-a-vis such idea?
Yeah, it has significant importance because 40% of the Ethiopian population does not have any electricity. When I grew up, we didn't have electricity in my hometown. So I know what it means because we didn't have electricity and all the associated benefits that comes with having electricity. So lighting up Ethiopian villages and homes and relieving all those women and girls from collecting firewood to cook food and really feed themselves really means a lot. And that's one of also the goals of the United Nations in terms of really access to electricity. It has a lot of benefit in terms of, even health issue will not be there because they are not burning firewood. And the other thing is self-sponsor, self-finance. That really gives a lot of pride to Ethiopians. And as you know, the financing from the international organization was not there because of the pressure Egypt put on IMF and World Bank. And when you look back now, if we had some financing from the world organizations, they would have leverage. Probably they would have pressured the Ethiopian government to accept some to compromise the negotiation in terms of the negotiation. Since now we don't have any backing financially, we are not dependent on anybody, and they don't have a lot of leverage in terms of really trying to put an agreement that we don't like.
Yeah. You know what, Dr. Alam, talking about lifting millions of Ethiopians out of the poverty line and also out of darkness, Ethiopia is, as you know, building this grand Renaissance dam. But some nations are obviously not happy, despite the repeated assertion from the Ethiopian part that it will use the Abai River equitably and fairly. What are some of your observations that you made in this regard?
Currently, GERD, as it is, does not consume any water. Once it generates the power, the water flows downstream to Sudan and Egypt. There is no pump that really pumps the water back to on the upstream side of the dam. So in terms of creating water shortage, that's not true at all. But the fear of the Egyptian is if we start developing irrigation upstream, they think they might consume water and reduce the flow downstream. So they want this project, the last project on the Blue Nile. That's why all this political pressure, noise, taking to the United Nations, to the Arab League, all sort of misinformation. That's their purpose. So Ethiopia has the right to utilize this water, and Egypt and Sudan divide the water based on the 1959 agreement without really consulting the other riparian countries. Ethiopia protested at the time because this is not a fair agreement. It should include all the riparian states, and they want to continue with that agreement. But time has passed now. All the 11 riparian countries need water. They need water for irrigation. They need water for drinking, and they need water also for power generation. So they have the right to utilize this water, and there needs to be a formulation between the riparian countries to utilize equitably and reasonably this water. So Egypt cannot really continue monopolizing this water for their own use. But currently, as it is, GERD will not impact the downstream countries. Actually, it benefits them. It benefits them in a number of ways, especially for Sudan. Sudan, as you know, they flooded in 2020. They flooded in 1988. They have flooded in their history several times. So I did this analysis taking the flow at the border and the probability of Sudan being flooded within 10-year time is about 70%.
Wow.
So
it's huge, right?
It's huge.
Yeah.
So Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam for them is like Aswan to Egypt. They haven't contributed a single penny, but they benefit immensely from the dam. One of the analysis I did was if the dam had been completed in 2020, that flood would not have happened because all the flows, the runoffs that really generated from the highlands of Ethiopia, GERD would have the capacity to store all. This is based on the Ethiopian government plan to operate the dam between 610 and 625. They lower it up to 610. If you lower it up to elevation 610 meter above sea level, you have more volume because the dam the top storage level about 640. So there is enough volume to store the 2020 runoff that's coming from the Ethiopian highland. Even if lower is a dam level to 625 meters, still there is more volume to store that water and release it slowly. If you see the 2020 flood in Sudan, the hydrograph, what we call is the level of the flow in the river, it has two peaks. One is earlier in August, that was above 6,000 cubic meter per second. They flooded. And in September also they got flooded because there was more rain in the Ethiopian highland and the flow was above 11,000 cubic meter per second. And the damage was enormous. And that alone is enough to support the dam. So it has a lot of, the other benefit is it modulates the flow because during, the flow is high during only for 4 months from June to November, October. After that, there is no rain, so the level of the flow in the river is very low, so they cannot use it for irrigation. So since now we are modulating and we are releasing more or less a constant flow amount, they just have year-round irrigation and expand their irrigation in the Sudan. And the other benefit they have is they don't have big dams in Sudan. Most of the dams are really very small in terms of capacity, in terms of volume. So if they have nearly constant flow in the dam, their electric generation efficiency will increase. So they know it. It has a tremendous benefit in all aspects. The other benefit is it traps most of the silt in the Ethiopian in the dam, so they don't have to desilt their canals. They spend a lot of millions of resources in terms of desilting their irrigation canal. So in terms of for Egypt, also it sends constant amount of flow downstream, so they don't have to really keep Aswan Dam as high as they need to. Is that also reduce evaporation because July, August, September, very hot in Egypt. So the evaporation rate from the dam is very, very, very high from Aswan Dam. It has a very big surface area, Aswan Dam, compared to the GERD, because GERD is in the valley. So the surface area of the GERD is very small. And Aswan is a flat area, so it has the evaporation rate from Aswan Dam is very, very high. Because the season where they want to keep and impound the water when there is more flow from the Ethiopian highland is very, very hot. So they don't have to do that anymore because there is a constant flow from the Ethiopian highland after generating the turbines. So there is also that advantage of not having a lot of loss from evaporation because they don't have to maintain the Aswan Dam high to store the wet weather flow from the Ethiopian highland. So with all these benefits, still they are making a lot of noise and taking it to the United Nations as a security threat. So it's very unfortunate.
I'm curious here. What is preventing them from accepting these realities?
When you talk to the technical people and you present all these arguments, they don't defend. They don't have any answer to respond to all these issues. It's the politicians where the problem is. I think they want to use it for their own purposes to prolong, their power. They say this is the only resource we have, even though they have vast groundwater reserve, which can be used for the next 100 to 100 years. And sometimes it's really wondering why all this when you have really a cooperative arrangement and benefit mutually between all those countries. So it's just not defendable anymore.
Regarding the whole region, what are some of the benefits, the multiple benefits of the dam that Ethiopia is building?
It has one, there is climate change, climate variability. That's another factor. So climate variability is, this year you get a lot of rain. Maybe next year you may not get that much rain.
Okay.
So if we store the water in the dam, when you get, I mean, a lot of rain during wet season,
Yeah.
that's really security. When dry come, you can release the water downstream, and after it generates power, still they get water. If the dam was not really present, that rainwater, that really the runoff from the catchment or from the drainage area river basin flows to the Mediterranean Sea. And that's also another security guarantee. By having this storage reservoirs, it will really help you to cope or mitigate, I mean, when dry season comes. So that's another benefit. The other benefit is electricity generation and integration within the region. So the region, including Sudan, they need a lot of power. They have to use this power for industries, and having more power in the region, in the pool, in the grid pool, is really benefit for even the entire region's Horn of Africa. So that's another angle of the benefit of the dam. In terms of third filling, the construction, the filling of the dam is part of the construction. So say the Egyptians, they say, oh, we cannot fill now, but there's no way you can stop filling the dam, because if the runoff coming into the reservoir is more than the outlet, the low-level outlet, obviously the water level in the dam will rise, because you cannot stop from filling. So when it gets to the low block, where we call it low blocks, that means the middle section, which is not really up to 640, it flows over. And you cannot stop, I mean, filling the dam. It's part of the construction process. And I think on the Declaration of Principle also, it states clearly that Ethiopia, the filling of the dam is part of the construction. I think last year they have second filling, even though they haven't really reached the level of construction because of rainfall and other issues, and they captured a certain amount.
Yeah, thank you so much for that explanation. Let's also talk about the constructive roles the diaspora communities play when it comes to Ethiopia and national development in general, and the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam in particular. What have you observed in this regard?
Yeah, this is really my favorite question to respond. And the diaspora, even though physically they are out of the country, their heart is here in Ethiopia.
Yeah.
And the response is really, really very amazing. There are several GERD support groups in America, in Canada, and in Europe. And we host a lot of webinars in the past 2 years to educate the people who were on the site previously about the GERD, the benefit of the GERD, why we should contribute and support the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. And we have done a number of fundraising and through the embassies in the US, embassies in Canada. And the response was overwhelming, really, in terms of financial support. The other is, fighting misinformation. Now there are a lot of organizations, technical and also advocacy group. The advocacy group are really engaging the House of Representatives, the Senates, because the Egyptians really, they are doing a lot of misinformation about the impact of the dam to their livelihood. They say this many farmers will be out of business if Ethiopia fills the first stage filling. Nothing happened, and still they are claiming that so many farmers will be out of job because of the filling. Just one thing to mention, GERD has nothing to do with the downstream impact of on Egyptian farmers, because Aswan controls the flow between the Aswan Dam and Mediterranean. Unless they release flow, the farmers will not get water. But they blame on GERD because of their operation, because now Aswan is full up to the top of the berm. Actually, some of the flow is going to the Toshka farm, to the desert, because there is a weir when the level in Aswan exceed a certain height, it flows freely into the Toshka Lake. So they have a lot of farming there, but they blame
So
on
they are
the
wasting the water,
Yeah,
right?
they are basically wasting the water and let it evaporate in the desert.
For which they are notorious, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically. I mean, the first filling of, planned was 4.8 billion cubic meter.
Yeah.
And the wastage in Egyptian farm is more than 40 billion cubic meter. We haven't even touched even 1/10 of it, but they blame it on the GERD. If we capture 4.5 billion cubic meter of water, so many farmers will be out of business, and there will be a lot of exodus to Europe because people could not find job in their farms, and that's what one of their just misinformation. So there is an advocacy group in the diaspora in each cities who approach the congressional representative, the Senate, explaining the benefit of the dam for all, for Sudan, for Egypt, and whatever they hear from the other side is wrong and is misinformation. So that's another angle. And the third angle is on the technical part. Okay. And there are a lot of really papers, unfortunately, published in reputable journals that should not be published because technically they are trash. And we wrote a lot of letters countering the analysis, how it's wrong, and really ask the journal editors to remove it. And few of them have been removed. And one of the paper I remember is they said this made such loss because the GERD was in geologically unstable area. And if you analyze that their numbers, there has to be a big river under the dam to lose that much water. It was grandest and erroneous, so we told them, this is volcanic area, the geology. It's not a crust, it's not limestone. Yeah. There is no seepage and under the dam, so you cannot really lose that much water because of impounding the GERD. So that one, I think, was removed, and finally, after a number of efforts, and there are other also professionals in the diaspora who are involved in this one. I heard about it, but I'm not involved in this. All these are my friends. We interact each other, and we help each other how to formulate the rebuttal. That's one thing. The other thing is we participated in number of technical conferences in the diaspora. Last June in Atlanta, there was a conference hosted by American Society of Civil Engineers Water Resource Congress Group. It was an international conference. In that one, we presented 6 papers on GERD and the Nile. One of them was tackling this misinformation we see in the journals. The other one is the benefit of Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam in mitigating flooding in Sudan. Another one is how we can really cooperate among the regions, the 11 riparian regions. We are linking the experts here at home with the experts in abroad. So there is a better collaboration, better networking, a better discussion among ourselves. I think this should continue, and it's getting better and better. So I think the Ministry of Water and Energy is responsive to that one. We had a very fruitful meeting. I think we'll engage and contribute as much as we can on this project. So that's only not only focused on GERD, it's on water resources in all river basins as needed. So I think we all are excited. Most of the water professional experts are living abroad. They are very open to help, to engage, and to contribute to their motherland.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your wonderful ideas, and I wish you a safe trip.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Well, dear viewers, thank you also for having stayed with us until I see you next time with yet another program. It's goodbye from me, Shivara. Stay safe and take care.